My name is Nick Benjamin. I'm here to be the cliche and urge everyone to vote. Voting is very important because the way you show your support for our democratic process is participating in it. It's also very important because every election there are surprises. That's why we have the election. And the side that benefits from the surprise tends to be the people who showed up. Great example of this in Mississippi. We just had a big Senate runoff a couple months ago. Thad Cochran won partly on the basis of Democrats coming in to vote in the Republican primary. That is legal in Mississippi, but the guy who lost is still suing because he's alleging they didn't have the right to show up. In Virginia, conservative Republicans showed up for their House primary, and as a result, one of the most powerful men in the country, Eric Cantor, is no longer going to be employed in January. So voting is very important, but there's another reason to vote. The reason is because I can't. That's a little bit of an exaggeration, actually. I can vote. It's just that I couldn't if I didn't know how to read the statute book. So to start a long story at the start, this is my ID. It's a passport card, much like this one, except of course I'm not a pretty woman named Happy Traveler. Back in May, I was thinking about elections and voting because that's primary season in Ohio. And I vaguely remember that people with a passport card or the passport book did not have valid voter ID in Ohio. And it was a huge saga figuring out whether the memory was right, whether I was imagining things. Much harder than it should have been. So this is that saga. Hopefully anyone else with a passport card will watch it and know what they need to do to vote. The short answer is no, your passport card will not work because it does not have an address on it. The first place I checked was the state of Ohio's FAQ on voter ID. As you can see, the very first bullet point says that my passport should count as voter ID because it is current and valid photo ID issued by the U.S. government. The rest of the FAQ is basically an explanation of what happens if your address is wrong on your driver's license. To be fair, they have improved the site recently. This screenshot was taken on May 24th, but it's a little late to be getting your voter information out. State of Ohio, it's almost election time. So since I didn't trust the state, I Googled it, and the National Council of State Legislators had a very interesting and informative site on voter ID by various states. The Ohio section gave me my first clue as the reason why my passport card wouldn't work, because it says Ohio defines valid photo ID as defined as a document that shows the name and current address. It's also very useful because it tells me exactly which sections of the Ohio statute book to look in. That funny little symbol in front of 3503 is a section sign. So it's saying the Ohio laws, section 3503.16 and 3505.18 are the ones to look at. 3505.18 turns out to be the one that governs what actually happens when you vote. Procedure when elector enters polling place. An elector is a voter. The important bit is this paragraph, which says you have to, when you go to the polling place, you announce to the precinct officials your name, your current address, and provide proof of identity. The really important clause that you can't get around is this one. All the forms of ID have to show the name and current address of the elector. If you've got a state ID or driver's license with an old address, you can get around that using this little section, but the rest of us have to have a valid ID from this list. That means current and valid photo ID with an address, military ID, a current utility bill, bank statement, government check, paycheck, or other government document. I'm not in the military. I I get all my bills online, and I don't get government checks. So basically, the only way I can vote is use the other government document clause. I vote in Cleveland Heights because I lived there up until a few months ago, and I pay income taxes. So that's another government document, unless the judge gets anal, because Cleveland Heights uses a agency called the Regional Income Tax Agency to collect their income tax. So maybe that's not a government document. And maybe it's not a utility bill because it's not a utility. But that until a judge gets anal, this is all I can do. This whole story is a good reason why everyone should vote. This whole problem is caused by the fact that in 2010, only a very small group, or a relatively small group, voted in much larger numbers than everyone else. It was the people who were very terrified that Obama's economically liberal policies would destroy America. People who were terrified that liberal billionaires would, flood Ohio every 2 years with election workers from other states, and those workers would register here and vote in Ohio, and therefore tyranny would result and taxes would go up. And they voted in 2010, so they got a policy to stop that, and that policy is a pain in the ass, but it's not a pain in the ass to them because they have driver's licenses. Because this is Ohio and almost everybody does, but I don't. So please vote. In Ohio, you can vote early. I will probably be voting tomorrow at the Cuyahoga County Board of Elections just to get it out of the way.